Each month or so, modern Hollywood will serve up a new cinematic shit sandwich. The latest, Jurassic World Dominion, is a particular gastronomic horror, retch-inducingly rank-smelling and steaming homeless person's diarrhea, mixed with flatulently odorous fecal matter scraped from the bowl of a fast food restaurant's restroom, and sprinkled with dry flakes of week-old, sun-hardened dog excrement. All of this mixture is stirred together and slathered and squished between two stale pieces of hipster delicatessen artisanal bread, and served with a side order of an opened full baby diaper for the viewing public to consume in multiplexes all over the world. Jurassic World Dominion suffers from the same needless problems as dozens of other films in the modern age. A simple premise, a compelling central idea that is then written to death with an unnecessarily overstuffed plot, leading to an unnecessarily long screen time, with too many threads and narratives and side quests, too many ideas, an unnecessarily vast cast of characters, an uncertainty much of the time over who the main protagonist is, a lack of clarity in explaining to the audience how everything connects, and an overall bloatedness that undermines an original concept that thrived on being straightforward. But even modern Hollywood should be able to do better than saddling film franchises with scripts that are laborious, tiring, and needlessly complex. The original Jurassic Park didn't fuck around with extraneous elements, multiple locations, half a dozen plot threads, get overly bogged down in social issues, or continually introduce the audience to new characters without time to develop them or make the audience feel anything about them. The original film gave us a paleontologist, a brilliant scientist, an eccentric character, two cute kids to protect, a Judas figure who gets his comeuppance, and then let the film entertain the audience with stunning visuals, a great soundtrack, and good ideas. There were lovely moments when the film breathed and reveled in the world. Modern Hollywood is like a veteran prostitute's vagina, worn out, used in an exploitative, emptily transactional way, in a routine of passing gratification, leaving a desensitized, slackened expanse showered contemptuously with coke-lined dollar bills. Jurassic World Dominion bombards and distracts the audience with 5 significant characters, almost co-leads, and 2 storylines in the first quarter of an hour, shifting between 4 locations: Nevada, Utah, Texas, Pennsylvania, a cast of recent main characters, then the legacy characters, with everything speeding along without the viewer properly having time to latch onto anything for long enough to become all that invested. Strangest of all, the dinosaurs hardly even seem to be the most important element. They're just kind of there, while the main plot revolves around corporate intrigue linked to plagues of giant locusts. The film manages to take a great notion, something it seems that would be impossible to mess up, the idea of dinosaurs living in human society, and somehow makes it boring and underutilized. Dinosaurs appear every once in a while to do cool-looking dinosaur stuff, but it doesn't seem compelling or to carry much implication or tension on screen. Why does this awful dynamic keep happening, with the same dismally predictable consequences of New Year's Eve in New Zealand? What could be more appealingly simple than Godzilla vs. Kong? Why would cinemagoers want anything more than a relatively short film where a gigantic lizard and a gigantic monkey smash the shit out of each other while laying waste to a modern metropolis or two? What would possess a room full of screenwriters to cobble together a nearly 2-hour movie crowded with unnecessary characters, multiple storylines, and a half hour or so where humans lure Kong into the hollow center of the earth to retrieve a power source for a secret weapon, and then make a gigantic third monster powered by a psychologically bonded electrocharged skull of a dead monster or something, and then the giant ape being defibrillated by the engine of a spacecraft or something, and 3 other characters roaming around an installation in a side plot that goes virtually nowhere? When talking about the making of Star Wars, George Lucas said that, mainly for budgetary reasons, the film is almost entirely limited to 2 locations: the desert planet of Tatooine and the Death Star, with a bit of jungle tacked on at the end. The story was focused around a central cast of memorable characters with a traditional hero's journey plot and a final showdown with clear stakes. Under the auspices of Disney, this beloved franchise projectile vomited out The Rise of Skywalker, a film where underdeveloped characters lurch from one location to the next, searching for MacGuffins that send them racing to other locations looking for more keys and information. All of this peppered with side quests, abrupt plot developments and deaths out of nowhere that amount to nothing, A series of sequences and set pieces that have almost nothing to do with anything, and a third act that is exhaustingly overcrowded with CGI, confrontations, and developments that are bizarrely underexplained for the viewer, and directed in a way that doesn't allow the viewer to absorb or critique anything before they are whisked away to the next pursuit, marketing opportunity, or lightsaber duel. The original Halloween was such a success because its action was centered around a tight group of characters, each with a clear function and role, a sympathetic protagonist, a creepy villain, and a subdued, slowly mounting tension, all grounded in suburban realism. A film like Halloween Kills is an unnecessarily bloated mess where even the script-writing basics of having a clear-cut protagonist isn't properly managed, with the ostensible legacy main character bedbound in a hospital and scarcely involved, while the town tracks down the over-stylized, overly sympathetic, overly relied upon, overly exposed villain. With no particular plot, momentum, or clear-cut three-act structure, only a bloated, spiritless mess with random stuff happening for too long. Ghostbusters was lightning in a bottle, based on a simple, brilliant premise of a bunch of schlubs acting as paranormal pest control, then being summoned as unlikely heroes to save New York from a supernatural villain. It was clever, tight, and knew not to clutter things with unnecessary subplots or too many characters, and to instead provide a platform for its talented cast to express themselves and imbue the film with its enduring charm. Consider then the plot outline for Ghostbusters Afterlife. Egon Spengler captures an entity in Ivo Shandor's mine in Oklahoma. Egon conceals a ghost trap in his home before being attacked by the creature and suffering a fatal heart attack. His estranged, financially struggling daughter Kelly inherits the farm and moves there with her children Trevor and Phoebe. Phoebe discovers the farmhouse is haunted and the poltergeist residing in it leads her to the ghost trap, which she shows to Gary and her new friend, Podcast. Gary, a fan of the Ghostbusters, helps Phoebe learn more about them and her grandfather. They release one of Gozer the Gozerian sentinels that escapes to the mine. The farm ghost leads Phoebe to Egon's underground laboratory and after revealing himself as her grandfather, guides her in restoring the Ghostbusters' equipment. A ghost they call Muncher flees to the town. Having repaired the Ghostbusters' Cadillac, Ecto-1's engine, they capture it. Phoebe contacts Ray Stantz for help and tells him Egon has died. Ray in turn informs Phoebe of what became of the Ghostbusters after they defeated Vigo the Carpathian. Phoebe, Podcast, Lucky, and Trevor find a Gozerian temple within the mine. Exploring further, they discover Shandor is alive in his casket and they hinder Gozer's attempts to cross over. Zool and Vince Clotho possess Kelly and Gar and allow Gozer to escape. Shandor awakens and pledges his fealty to Gozer but is killed nonetheless. With supernatural chaos distracting the town, the children travel to the mine and capture Zool, freeing Kelly and weakening Gozer's physical form. Ray and the other original Ghostbusters arrive to help, and Gozer seeks to complete his revenge against the quartet for vanquishing it. Supported by Egon's now visible ghost, Phoebe battles Gozer with her proton pack. The Ghostbusters help Phoebe restrain Gozer by crossing their proton streams, allowing Kelly to activate the ghost traps, capturing Gozer and its minions. And that was the truncated version. Why is such an elaborate plot with so many sequences and characters and cameos and twists and locations necessary in a franchise where the success of the original flowed from character development and interaction and satire without sentiment or really any serious drama? Why take the original concept and try to work in elements of genres that aren't suited to it, such as familial dysfunction, abandonment, loss, grief, teenage angst? And why make it 20 minutes longer than the original? And why make the characters uniformly po-faced and serious, the complete antithesis of the spirit or point of the original? Modern Hollywood, an industry full of screenwriters who are able to produce feature films, or really, let's call it for what it is, content, that is overstuffed with things happening, but at the same time, with hardly anything happening.